And we are live, guys. It is Phoenix 92.5 FM Saturday, which means you're listening to Nerd to Know Basis, show number 71. So, guys, if you're in the chat, let us know what you think, what you don't think, whatever is going on, because we want to hear from you. We have everything set up, and also give us money. Go to PayPal and give us money, and also Ko-fi. And buy my album that's out on Friday because
buy my book.
Buy my book.
Exactly. Buy my book.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, Dara, I know we're doing the intro. This is the most superliminal approach I've ever heard of monetization.
So there you go. It's just
download. While we're at it, download Brave. Do it right now.
Download Brave. Do it right now. Exactly. We're actually on Brave right now. All those links are going to be in the video below if you're catching this.
Yeah. It's all Brave all the time here at NerdToKnowMedia.
Yvonne et Niage. Yvonne et Niage.
Either that or just throw money that has NerdToKnowMedia at Phoenix FM and go there.
Yeah, just throw money.
You get a paper airplane. You write Nerd to Know Media on it. You stick a €5 note in. You throw it out your window.
And then
we're going for the Bob Geldof approach to promoting. Give us the effing money. Here's the phone line. Give us the money now.
Well, here's the thing. The best way you can do all of if you don't want to do any of that, the best way to support us is by liking, subscribing, and sharing the show, and of course the Facebook pages and all that stuff. So you have a choice: either give me money or share the show.
Give them the effing money.
I know we jest, but not
really. But also give us the money.
The money is mine.
But
money.
Yeah, guys. But of course, that was all done in jest for the tax man, but not really. So how's everybody doing, guys?
Well, it's nice to be kind of among the whole team again. I think it was just Bryn and yourself last week, and even then, Dara, you couldn't really hear. So it's nice to have Kev back in the room.
Yeah, literally. I have to say, for anyone who hasn't had an ear blockage, it's the worst thing ever. And yeah, it's kind of weird to be back among the balanced hearing, shall we say? So that was a fun experience. Like doing 4 shows where I couldn't really hear. Interesting. Let's just put it that way.
Well, you mean you're not usually just leaning to one side constantly? That's weird, man.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right? The whole world in stereo. But guys, we have a lot.
By Dolby Surround Sound.
No, brought to you by the Brave browser. Give us money.
Yes.
But yeah,
give us money for the pint, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So look, we have a lot to get through this week.
Do we? You haven't said that in about 3 months.
That's because stuff is happening again, man. We're opening up. The horrible virus is behind us almost.
And now watch as we cover almost none of it, as is tradition for the four of us.
Hold on, listen. On the rewind this week, Dave took me down a rabbit hole where he got me talking about Sting and Undertaker, and then he got me in the rabbit hole talking about TNA. Just don't make me talk about things that are going to get.
That is literally impossible. Because it's like everything reminds you of TNA. It's like an abusive ex-girlfriend you can't stop talking about.
Dara, put down the phone. Stop looking up TNA.
Well, look, there is something I want to talk about, but I don't want to mention it right now because we won't get anything else done. It is the big franchise that we're not allowed to mention until we run out of time. Mm-hmm. But there is big news, so we will talk about that at some point. But before we get into that, we have to talk about. We are going to go back to our Simpsons review, part 2 of season 6. So that's going to be fun. We also have a lot of Batman news, which we're going to lead with. We had a wish rant from Lisa, but she's not here, so we're going to have to hold that over until next week. I really want to hear that rant. I don't know what she ordered. I think it's a microphone she ordered, and it's just disappeared. But
ironically, she can't rant about it without the microphone. So here we are.
There you go. It'll come full circle. That's what the rant's for.
Can we I want to save the good material for Lisa, but is there anything stranger than scrolling through Facebook or whatever and seeing what Wish thinks you want?
But hold on a minute, right? I've seen this a lot, and we're going to try keep this PC because we're on the radio.
Which is very difficult to do with Wish recommendations.
But hold on, right? Listen. Am I the only? Bryn's not including this because he's not on Facebook. Boo, boo, Bryn, boo.
I can still
Boo.
recall what Wish ads were like.
But hold on, right? Any Wish ad I've got are relatively normal stuff. So I don't know where these crazy ads are coming from. The people are like, "Oh, I got this elongated thing," or this,
Dara, maybe
thing.
your barometer for normal is different than ours.
Well, no, it's just like it's never been anything too weird, I think I know what I think it is. It's because the settings on Facebook, you can actually go in and turn stuff off. Where it's just more generic stuff. So anything like that's like, like a CD player or like a DVD player or a video game thing or anything. It's not anything mad, And then when I see what people are looking at, I'm like, oh my God, like either one, what are you looking up on your browser? Or two, what are you talking about in your private messages? Because that's where all that stuff will be pulled from.
I've had really random things advertised to me from Wish when I was on Facebook, like flippers for snorkeling.
Yeah, I've had that stuff too.
I've never liked anything to do with activities like that. So I was like, how is that there?
I would love to know like what algorithm they're using, to figure this stuff out, because usually it is like the Facebook algorithm is quite aggressive. Where like if you mention, I don't know, Well Burger, you're probably going to get an ad for Well Burger at some point. I'm probably going to get one because my phone is beside me.
We're going to get one mid podcast.
Possibly. And don't forget Brave Browser.
Also, if you can help us, if you can sponsor us, we will talk more about Wow Burger and their excellent burgers.
They are the best. But yeah, so that's kind of it, and that's how their algorithm works. But Wish's one is just strange, and I would love for somebody to like enlighten me if they know how it works and why it chooses almost like that the thing from the Hunger Games to just really go after some people with the most random, bizarre, truly bizarre things.
To be fair, I look up some occasional cosplay stuff on Wish, so like there's a kind of a costume rabbit hole that I can go down, and I did get once. This is PC, don't worry. I did buy for my girlfriend like a mermaid tail blanket. So like I went nosedived face first into like Wish being like, hey, you like weird stuff? I got you. And we'll say that they are advertising. It's gotten to the point where they're advertising, we'll say, illicit paraphernalia that just seems baffling on a conceptual level.
I can't understand the thought process where it's like, right, we have a male in his 20s or 30s, random, cliff diving gear. It's like spelunking gear. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like
it's that, or like their items are playing real fast and loose with tags.
Yeah. Well, that's, I don't know, like, because there's other websites. There's like AliExpress and a few other bits and pieces. And actually, there's an item I want to talk about from that realm in a bit. But I've never seen the ads that aggressive on those. So, like, at least it kind of makes sense, if you do have your tracking data stuff on, let's just say.
But again, this is the benefit of having a browser like Brave. And yes, I know this is shilling, but it's also relevant. But like when you do have your privacy,
buy my album. Buy my album.
When you have the privacy settings on your social networking feeds shut down to like walled up as much as you can, and you're also using a browser like Brave, it does mean that like the profile that's created for you is not as complete as it is for other individuals.
That's correct.
It means that the algorithm is forced to throw more mud at the wall than it's used to when it comes to your profile that it has for you.
But see, what I would say to that is like that's a very controlled environment, Brent. Like this is like the stuff that I've seen posted, I would imagine it's people browsing on their phones usually, and unless you're using a Brave browser on your phone or taking these controls of Facebook, you're just going to be an average Joe Soap. Yep. So I would agree with you there, and that's probably what's happening. But I think that that's just the default setting in general, where they're just like, oh, they use this one term sometime. Let's just throw everything we possibly can and just machine gun content.
Yeah, well, like I mean, for my job, I had a project where I had to basically I had to basically create rules for an internal search engine that we use. So I have seen what effects click-through rates and stuff have. And like, I mean, search engines look at click-through as being basically like the god set, the holy grail. They don't really care. They don't really care if it converts into a sale or not. They just go, well, you clicked, so you're interested. And this is like the baseline that just about every modern search engine, whether it be Bing or whether it be DuckDuckGo, which or Google are using, click-through is basically the main thing that they're interested in. So that ends up being what that's what Amazon use pretty heavily. It's what the likes of Wish are using, but it's just, it's the ways in which it's whatever access they have to those APIs that allows them to, it's whatever access they have to them that allows it to leverage it to its fullest. Now, obviously somewhere like Amazon has a much better idea of what your profile is, because most people in their 30s have been using Amazon for solidly for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
So their profile on you is pretty accurate now.
But that's good. That's good in a sense. I think it's the folly. Like, this is why the Brave browser is so good, because you actually get paid for this in cryptocurrency if you actually download it and opt into it. And it makes sense because the money they're making off you based on this. But from a consumer standpoint, Facebook really doesn't need to know that much about you to do what it needs to do. Amazon, yeah, kind of. Like, I like the suggested items because it is pretty good on Amazon. eBay is weird. eBay is like I was using eBay actually recently, and it's a broken site that doesn't work, but still exists in its form from 20 years ago for some reason. So eBay is a weird site, but with Wish, this is a call for anyone who works for Wish or knows how it works. Please let us know. I really want to talk to you about really, really nerdy APIs, and myself and Brandon are probably really into that because I just want to know how this works. I want to see the code. Because
you will be staring into the mountains of madness.
I don't understand how it works or why it just puts, because the people.
I'm not so much interested in how it works. I'm more interested in why it works. Is my main issue with them.
The only thing I could think about is that it is just.
So what? Are you just going to fire off an email saying, "Dear Amazon, whatever, why?" Sincerely.
Yeah, basically.
Dear Wish, why?
Why does this work? Why are you so successful?
Well, here's the thing though, right? And we're on YouTube now at the moment, and it has a similar kind of way where your recommended feed would be based on what you watch. BitChute, which if it's like the Brave of YouTube, right? Where it's like a free for all video platform. What's great about that is that it is like a free speech zone and kind of stuff. But what's bad about it is, there's loads of things bad about it. But because it's literally YouTube from like 20 years ago. But in that sense, it's also the actual search function and suggested videos do not work. It's completely broken because it's only 2 lads running the whole thing. So you can, like, I think that's what's going on with Wish, where it's a very, very, very small team or a very inept team where they have the sensitivity up super high, where anything they just search and search and search based on whatever they're getting from Facebook. And that's what I think.
But I think, to be fair, Wish has kind of cultivated that sort of a grab bag sort of shopping style.
Yeah, literally that's what it is. Literally, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's when you're starting, like, you could look for something on Wish, but like whatever you're buying for less than a tenner, and I'm getting it a year from now.
Well, then, do you think? Sorry, I'm going to cross you there. Do you think that in a year's time there'll be like a Netflix Fire Festival documentary style thing on the rise and fall of Wish?
No.
You think it's going to survive?
Wish
because Wish has been going strong for years.
Yeah. Here's one though, right? I remember when I was working as an extra. Brendan, you probably noticed as well. The random people you meet working as an extra in Dublin. And I remember we were hanging out. I think we were shooting Penny Dreadful. It was one of the old timey shows. And there was this, and he goes, "Yeah, I work on Fiverr." I'm like, "Cool, man." And he goes, "Yeah, Wish is randomly." I remember I showed up one time. I was really, really drunk, and I ordered 2 suits from Wish. About 2 years later, they just arrived, and he totally forgot he ordered suits. And I'm like, "Were they good suits?" He goes, "Yeah, they were great." And it's like 2 years later, though. It's like, okay.
Oh God! If I wish I had my camera on right now, because I actually just got I actually just got something off of Wish yesterday.
Man.
I have been sitting on a Vegeta costume for about 2 years now because Halloween has fallen through every time. And I've never had a wig. So I've got a full-blown Dragon Ball Z wig in the mail yesterday from Wish last year.
Unreal. Well, there you go. Look, guys, all I'd say is when you're online shopping, be safe and use the Brave browser if you want to make money off your own data, because that's what I'd say. And it's great, and that's what we use, and that's what we use on Nerd to Know Media.
That's quite a segue.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. So before we move on to the actual topic of today,
it's amazing how far we got through on doing that incredible ad roll. You know,
I mean, is there much left for Lisa to say now?
Well, we still don't know what her story is, but we just kind of we set the table for Lisa to her. And be like, hey,
for next week, but hamsters.
Exactly.
And our counter will just pretty much be, but still, the Brave browser is great. You should still be using it.
That's our challenge to Lisa. See how many times she can plug the Brave browser in her argument.
We should have a counter. It just goes ding, ding, ding. So Shudder, give me a free account, thanks.
You're clocking up the sponsors this week.
Oh man, I'm just trying. I'm just going for it. It's because I can hear again. That's it. I'm like, I must chill.
Sell my book. Sell my book.
Yeah. Okay. So I was looking for a Dreamcast replacement, or a Dreamcast emulator, right? One that plays Dreamcast games flawlessly. Because
are you going to start talking about the Vita again?
I'm not even sure the Dreamcast plays Dreamcast games flawlessly. If I'm being honest,
it does. It's very poor security. Anyway,
Kid, he's very sensitive about the Dreamcast. Do not challenge him.
If Kev's flags it, if it's the PS Vita thing, I'm glad the camera's off because I nearly fell asleep last time.
No, it's not the Vita. No, it that isn't developed yet. There are some tools that's been worked on. And you might be able to play the Dreamcast soon, all right? So we're parking that. But I have been watching a bunch of YouTube channels. And I'll link a couple of them in the description below that kind of review different tech. And there's this. It's an Android device that's from AliExpress, and you can get it on eBay. That's how probably I'm going to buy it. But it looks pretty decent now. I don't know. I'm kind of unsure about buying stuff from AliExpress because you have to give your credit card details, and I'm kind of like, I really don't want to do that. But I'm like, right, let's see what it's like. So I went on an adventure to try and bid on Amazon, and as I said, 10-year technology, a 20-year technology that you're dealing with trying to bid. Like, what's your experience been like on eBay, guys? Am I the only one here who finds it really, really frustrating?
My experience with eBay is it gets installed with my phone when I buy it, and I never use it.
Have you never used eBay?
Nope.
Wow, that's great. Look, here's the thing: it's the longest running storefront on the internet, basically, but it still looks exactly the same and behaves exactly the same as it did about 20 years ago, and that's why I kind of hate it.
It's kind of it acted as the template and it never updated to the times. Now it's functional. Now,
but it looks very.
I've only ever used it for the buy it now function. I've never bid on anything.
Now, see, that's it. I don't actually mind that so much. Now, it always feels kind of like stingy. It feels dingy. It feels like you've walked into like a store that's off, a shop that's off the side of the road, and you're like, yeah, this doesn't smell right. It's, like a used game store. That's, exactly the kind of place I'm talking about. And
you're gonna get you're gonna find a copy of Simpsons Hit and Run, but it's gonna be a little sticky.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be sticky. Maybe have some coffee stains or something on it, but you'll get it. But that's the same thing. Like whenever I bought anything off eBay, the buy it now function I just kind of prefer. But anytime I've tried to bid it, the way it's set up, you either end up paying way more than what you should, or you get outbid in the last second. So it's extremely frustrating. So I hate eBay. That's basically.
I was gonna say, if you were fishing for sponsorship, that's a real backhanded praise there.
There's no praise on eBay. Like, I'm sure it's great and whatever, but I'm like, please improve, sort yourself out, mate. And
I think I've just got a general kind of dislike of auction functions in general.
I hate that. Like, just make it Amazon, but like. Low rent Amazon, Wish Amazon. There you go.
As far as I'm aware, eBay is the only storefront I have failed to purchase something from.
Really?
Yeah. As in, like anytime I've tried to buy something from it, I've been outbid. or been bid at the last second, and I've just gone like that happened. I tried that, I think 4 or 5 times about 10 years ago. And then I went, you know what? I'm going to go to Amazon, because when I look at a product there and I pay money for it, I buy it. And that's it. It's mine.
That's it. That's the thing. I'm like, I just want to buy the product and that's it. Although I will have to say, if you guys are looking for laptops or anything like that, ex-corporate laptops, ex-corporate desktops on eBay are the way to go. Fantastic little secret there for anyone who's listening. I never had a bad experience, but
there was a short period of time there just before the GameCube became like a retro console, but afterwards like stopped production, where like you could just get a flood of GameCube games on the cheap on eBay from just like, again, from buy it now section. So that's probably most of what I bought on eBay.
Yeah, and the buy it now section is great, and I think it's one of those things that I think either Amazon picked up on that and ran with it, but the auction function is so outdated purely because it's so automated. It's just any good deals are going to be gone, and at the very last moment someone's running a script somewhere to outbid you, so it's like, look, there's no point, this is a waste. But yeah, that's my rant of eBay over. And look, nothing against eBay. If you want to sponsor the show, they can, but it is what it is.
if Dara does like a complete U-turn on eBay next week, you'll know why.
If I show up next week,
it was real chill.
If I show up next week and have a nice watch or something like that, then you'll know.
Like next week's show is going to be sponsored by Google Chrome and eBay.
It's a really nice watch, but it's a little sticky. It's got some coffee stains on it.
Exactly. But it was bought from the buy it now section. So let's get to the actual meat and potatoes of the show.
I was going to say, like, if you're watching the screen, poor Batman and the Flash have been sitting through a lot of talk not about them for the past 20 odd minutes or so.
Well, listen, the Flash has had to sit through a lot of people not talking about him for years. It's no different.
That's true, yeah.
And listen, I would actually have no interest in this movie if it wasn't for this news, where Michael Keaton is in talks, and it's more than likely a lock now, to come back as not Thomas Wayne, which everyone reported initially, which was weird, but actually as Bruce Wayne, reprising his role from the 90s, late 80s Batman, which in my personal opinion is the only Batman, like the real Batman. And he's going to come back as
except for Pure West, of course.
Oh, well, that's a whole different thing. But this so what's interesting about this is, guys, right, this sets up the multiverse in the DC universe is a thing now. Like, right. They're leaning into it now full on. So there's no more separate stories. They're doing their own thing. Every single DC thing that you have seen or will see is now in the multiverse, and they're leaning into it hard. And look, we said this on this show a couple of years ago. Well, no, your show was not old, but a year or two ago, where it was like, hey, this is what DC should do to fix it, and they've gone and done it, and this is great. And Michael Keaton is going to play. Apparently, he's going to be the Nick Fury role, where he kind of shows up and he's like the leader. It's also going to tie into a Batman Beyond movie, or not movie, HBO series. Sorry, it's not going to be a movie, but it's all going to start in Flashpoint, in the Flashpoint. So I know, Bryn, you're a huge Flashpoint fan.
I am, yeah.
So what do you think about this? What do you think about the change of this into something that can actually help save the DCEU?
Well, yeah, I think I think the idea of what they're doing is really, really exciting, because it might not necessarily be the direction that I personally would have went with in terms of who they'd previously cast from their DCEU films, but I'm always happy to see Michael Keaton in anything. So this is another this is just like a great this is a great casting. The idea that this could lead into Batman Beyond is always going to be something I'm going to wholeheartedly want. Just the idea of that alone is like some wonderful little fan service. I kind of hope that if they still are going to go through with doing the whole Flashpoint thing, that they will get Jeffrey Dean Morgan to be Thomas Wayne, because that just needs to happen as far as I'm concerned. This
is the actor who is the comedian, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm sorry, that's Thomas Wayne, guys. It is.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, it's very good indeed. But the idea, if they can get him locked in as well, it's just going to make me more excited. It's great news. Again, this is kind of one of those castings that just kind of, it makes you just like sit up and pay attention. It's like I remember like even though this isn't like the most recent time that this happened, but it's the first one that comes to mind. I remember hearing there's going to be a Hulk film back when it was the Ed Norton one, when that was first started getting news about it, and hearing that Ed Norton was going to play Bruce Banner, we're like, oh, okay.
Oh, suddenly this has legs, like
because I never was really that big a Hulk fan, but the idea of I understood the character well enough to go, well, Ed Norton can play that very, very well.
Exactly. And I think he did, to be honest with you. I think
yeah.
But here's what's interesting about this, guys, before I bring in Kev and Kane. This doesn't wipe out anything else, right? This doesn't wipe out Matt Reeves, the Batman, with Robert Pattinson. Right. It also on this as well, there's talks that Christian Bale could come back.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is this like is he like playing Batman as the Batman in a Batman movie, or is this like an Infinity War? We're going to get him in for 10 minutes screen time kind of deal.
That's what it's going to be. So it's still early days. And while this is, rumors and speculation, it's also not, because it's in the trade. So it looks like it's actually what's going to happen. He's going to pretty much be like a Nick Fury role. That's what it's going to be, where they'll all link up, but not really. It won't be a direct Infinity War movie, because they've tried that and it failed epically. It's more going to be what the DCU is. This is the reason why it exists, because they wrote themselves into a corner in like the 50s and 40s.
Well, actually, that's what I wanted to like. I mean, we talk about the DC compared to Marvel, where like they made all these missteps and stuff. But like their last 3 movies, well, I suppose maybe not including Birds of Prey commercially at least, but you've got Joker, you've got Shazam, you've got Aquaman, and at least critically you've got Birds of Prey. Like, at least if you just look at the recent track history, DC is doing well at what it's doing. It doesn't need like a Star Wars style reboot, if you get me.
It doesn't, but the thing about it is that the problem with it is it's very confusing, right?
Okay, that's fair.
It is very confusing in the sense of, how do these link together? Well, it's logical to be, and this is the exact same thing that happened in the comics, where they had all these characters, and then they made new characters, and then it conflicted, and then they were like, right, multiverse.
That's what I'm just kind of thinking. Like,
that's exactly what happened.
Listening to all because it so vividly reflects what happened. Just various writers coming in, writing different issues of comics that then just kind of contradicting each other and just kind of crossing lines, and then eventually somebody was like, how about like just different realities? Just, like if we want to canonize all of this, it has to be like different universes.
Exactly.
And then that opens up just the idea of like, just kind of hopping around, like, which has fun connotations.
But that's what they've been doing, Kev. They just never said it.
Yeah.
They were just
like
doing it.
That kind of opens the gates then to have, say, Henry Cavill just show up in a CW show just randomly. Like, it's one of those sorts of things. Listen, I just finished watching the Harley Quinn animated series. If any way can to tie that back into anything, I'll take it.
Well, look, I don't think it will be that over encompassing as far as what because they've already kind of like canonized a lot of this stuff already. There's the infamous Batman Beyond animated one where it cuts across all like robots, and they're all wearing the different suits, all the Batman suits. So this isn't something they have like veered away from, but they've never went so full. This is like, it's interesting because the concept of a multiverse is something that most people wouldn't know about. So it's like your average layperson until a couple of years ago. In a movie, it's still risky. I think the Avengers opened that up a bit more. Doctor Strange is really going to open it up. So this is a perfect time. And obviously with the news coming out that Star Wars, might do this kind of Star Wars wipe, and it looks like that's what's going to happen. I think this is the perfect time. It's just, it's like, it's so obvious, and it was just staring everyone in the face. And I think it's great. I think it's great.
But like, I mean, you bring up the Doctor Strange thing. Marvel was very good at pacing the kind of the growing of their universe, because first it was all ground, and it was Thor. Then from Thor, they went to Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy, they went to the Tinyverse, whatever Ant-Man lives. Then they go to Doctor Strange. Like it never felt like we were quantum leaping. There was like baby steps into everything. Like
I think the difference there is that like the guys at Marvel have been kind of like a pioneer of doing the shared universe experience. So they were able to just kind of take their time going at the pace they set. But by the time that Warner Brothers got around to going, we should be really making films with our characters doing the same thing. By the time that they got there, they there was already two phases of Marvel films
they were starting with a 10-year 10-year loss basically,
possibly more, because Green Lantern was supposed to be the launch one, and they just kind of skipped that one.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It had so many false starts as well, because they said that they wanted the Green Lantern one to be the one they started with, and then it wasn't, and then they really wanted Man of Steel to be the start of it, and then people didn't really like it, so then they tried to just shoehorn in a bunch of story into Batman versus Superman. People didn't really like that so much, and then they made Justice League. Like
they just kind of, without any basis or any practice, they just did it.
Yeah, there was a bit in Suicide Squad. Not that I actually hated Suicide Squad, but they kind of, you could see them getting increasingly desperate, with the exception of Wonder Woman, which somehow was kind of its own island for some reason. Maybe it has, Wonder Woman kind of had the Mandalorian effect, where no one kind of out on the studio level wanted anything from it, so they had that slightly freer reign.
It also helped that Wonder Woman had a competent director.
Yeah.
That would help.
Here's the thing on the Green Lantern thing, right? So we're going to get, not only are we getting this, but we're also getting the Snyder cut, right? Which is hilarious, because I remember we were all making fun of it at Comic-Con a couple of years ago.
Oh, they were handing out flyers, weren't they?
They were, yeah, and we were like, this is ridiculous. But yeah, so that's what's going to happen, and it turns out that Ryan Reynolds is actually in that movie.
What?
No way.
As the Green Lantern. Apparently they shot a cameo with Ryan Reynolds in it. So it's
honestly, if you told me that Ryan Reynolds was in this movie as Deadpool, I'd have believed you full.
Well, here's the thing. This is what's happening. So we're getting these crazy news stories that sound like they're made up. They're not. But it's insane that this is what's happening. But then again, guys, the world did kind of end. So everybody's kind of just like, let's just make what we can when.
Yeah, I suppose everything stopping for 3 months would give you time to pause and make a plan, wouldn't it?
Exactly. And look, it sucks that Batman Forever and Batman for Robin, like this article says, never happened. That's not true. Technically, they would just be decanonized in the Michael Keaton run. They still would happen in the multiverse. And guys, look, I'm also sad that Joel Schumacher's passed away. Actually, Schumacher. Phone Boot is one of my favorite films.
I keep forgetting that's his. Yeah,
so good. He's done some really good movies. So don't hate on him for Batman and Robin. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah, I think a friend of mine, Finbar Doyle, had a lovely thing to say about him, which is that no matter whether the good was film or bad, was good or bad, you were always entertained watching a Joel Schumacher film. And you can't say that about a lot of directors.
No, that's true.
I have to take umbrage what you're saying there. You can't blame him. You absolutely can. He
apologized he apologized every couple of years.
No, he has apologized as George Clooney, but at the same time, he had a very capable actor to play Bruce Wayne, and he went to him and said, "Now I want you to act as a notably worse actor than you are capable of being."
You're gonna have to explain that to me.
He wanted him to act like Adam West for the entire film, and that's exactly what we got.
Fair, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a Adam West Batman movie.
It absolutely is.
Because it's not a follow up to Batman Forever, which is actually very good.
I wouldn't go very good, I love it too. I just think that it peaked with Batman Returns.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
If I can just what's your favorite Batman film? For 1 sec, I'm not gonna. As
Stevie says, Batman Returns as well.
Oh, really? Well,
my personal.
Interesting choice.
I don't blame Joel Schumacher for Phantom of the Opera either.
Oh, dude, Phantom of the Opera's great. I love that movie.
I blame Jared Butler.
Hold on a second. Can I just say, I've seen Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. It's amazing. I like Phantom of the Opera, the movie. I think it's great. It is what it is. It's a big campy mess.
It is what it is, but it's not a very good representation of the musical.
No, dude, nothing is unless
terrible.
You see it. Nothing is unless you've actually you're in the.
I know, but if you put that on the movie poster, who's going to turn up?
Jared Butler.
Like, I mean, if for like the Les Mis film, you had before people went in, people put on the poster, it's not as good as the musical because there's no point because you can't do it. They'd be like, what?
Oh man, but Les Mis the movie is so much worse than you can possibly imagine for anyone who hasn't seen it. So
I saw that. I not to go too off, but I saw that one in the cinema, and I've seen Les Mis a lot of times growing up, and it's the choices that they made are so bizarre. I was not surprised, and I actually really like the director, but I was not surprised when Cats turned out the way it did. Like,
there was an excellent video essay done by a guy called Patrick Willems on why he was looking forward to Cats.
Yeah, I saw
and it's because the director is like makes such bafflingly weird choices for shot composition and stuff that he's like, now if he's doing Cats, we're gonna get something really weird here.
And Lindsay Ellis did a really good. Lindsay Ellis did a really good video essay on Phantom of the Opera, and I would say everything like
on Cats actually as well.
And on Cats, and as much as I liked Lindsay Ellis before she went a bit, I still really enjoy her content from time to time, and this is one that I really, really enjoy. So,
she's a huge fan of Irish culture as well.
I know. I loved her as a nostalgia chick. She went a bit mad there a while
ago. No, I completely disagree. I think she's the nostalgia chick stuff kind of I'm going off of, but I think her video essays now are brilliant.
I love her what's it? Canon videos.
Loose Cannon.
Loose Cannon.
Yeah.
Wait. Little asterisk. Her nostalgia chick one, Reality Bites, is still one I go to a lot.
I am all in for her liberal socialist essays. I eat them up.
Oh no,
like
a millionaire talking about socialism. I'm like, yeah, okay.
She's not a millionaire, is she? I mean, is anyone who isn't like a Markiplier a millionaire on YouTube?
Well, she works for Disney.
She did work for Disney.
Yeah, she did work.
I know, like she made a joke about what in what capacity?
Writer. She did like a bunch of shows.
Yeah, I didn't know this.
Yeah, she talked about it. That's why she stopped taking a break.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not on Twitter. If she doesn't say it in the video, I don't know it.
She does say it on the video.
We're gonna have to like which video?
Oh, I can't remember which one. But when she took a break, she's like, "Hey, I've done some projects. Here's the projects I did."
Yeah.
Okay.
She also did work with 4Kids as well as a contributor as well.
4Kids, yeah. So she's had a really good career. I love Lindsay Ellis. It is what it is. But
can I recommend another YouTuber then? Because have you ever heard of Sideways?
Yes, I have.
He does all of the kind of breakdowns of music scores and all that kind of stuff and all that. And he released one yesterday on Les Mis, and he goes into like the like terrible environment and like how they all like had to sing for like 12 hours straight. And it's like a fascinating deep dive. And it's a really like, even if you're unfamiliar with Les Mis, it's a really good like introduction to it and why this turned out the way it did. Like,
well. Okay, what we're going to do is everything we're talking about, guys, we're going to pop a link in the description below so you guys can actually check this out.
A lot of links.
A lot of links. Buy my book.
First one is for the Brave browser.
Yeah.
Exactly. But hold on,
you can use these links on Brave. And
exactly.
You won't get any ads that way. So,
unless you want
bell, can we ring a bell every time?
Well, look. So what we were going to talk about this week, we were going to talk about.
Yes, Prim, clap, Brave, clap.
Using your child to shill. I love it.
Oh, I've got to rise to your level, Dara.
Oh man, right. So what we were going to talk about this week, we were going to talk about season 6 of The Simpsons Part 2. And again, Lisa wanted to thought this up. So actually, Munster Mutt just joined in the chat. Sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. I would totally do a Raid Shadow Legends just for the lulz. Yeah,
and the money.
And the money.
This is where he's wrong. Shilling Brave is the new Raid Shadow Legends. We're making it a thing.
But here's the thing.
I'm sorry, guys. Don't you mean Brave Shadow Legends?
But here's the thing. Raid apparently.
Yes, Brave Shadow Legends.
Raid apparently don't actually sponsor anybody. They just
not yet.
Endorse. They just help endorse. But yeah, that's really good. So we were going to talk about, like, Lisa brought this up and she was going to talk about it, but she's not here, so I'm going to try to do my best to represent her opinion. So look, The Simpsons now.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'm going to try. I haven't got any hamsters around or Pokemon things. Oh, I have a Pikachu. There. So that's kind of it. But yeah, so basically The Simpsons now has gone kind of a bit off the rails with their dealing with a poo situation. And in my opinion, they've kind of gone off the rails. But they've bended to the pressure now with a poo being whatever he's supposed to be and the stereotype, blah, blah, blah. Now all persons of color in The Simpsons are no longer played by actors who aren't people of color.
Yes, and actually, just while you were going into one of your deep dives earlier, I did a sneaky bit of Googling. Apparently, it's not just The Simpsons now. Family Guy and Big Mouth. One I haven't heard of, Central Park. Like, the character of Cleveland. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I kind of talked about this last week, possibly off the air. They haven't specified if they're recasting, which I think could be an issue.
I did Google for The Simpsons, and they have announced that they are recasting with the associated people of color and various backgrounds.
Well, look, I'll just kind of say what I think on this, and then I'll open it up to the table, right? I get it. Fair enough. If that's what you want to do, then go for it. But it opens two Pandora's box. One, acting is acting, and you know that's kind of what you do. Like Robert Ditwell, Benedict Cumberbatch isn't a wizard, right? So are you going to get
he's also not a sociopath.
Yeah. Fair. So does that mean they're going to have to get a wizard to play with? You know, it goes down that kind of that slope, but. Also, with the shows like The Simpsons and Family Guy, it's like, right, there's a lot of shorthand. Let's call it shorthand because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Comedy shorthand. Yeah. Every time you use that, you're going to have someone play that who's of that background, and it's another slope. So I'm like, look, I get it, and look, go for it. And if that's what you guys want to do, cool. But I think this is the death knell for a lot of these shows because it makes them, one, very, very, very expensive, and two, takes away a very easy tool that they had at their disposal.
I would go as far as saying that it makes them even more expensive.
Yeah, correct. It does.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like one of the things I heard was that apparently Wendell Pierce, who played Bunk in The Wire, wants to be the new voice for Cleveland, which I think would be really, really cool. Wendell's awesome. Like I think, I definitely see where you're coming from though. Like this idea that like, because at the end of the day, like it's still one of the best things about animation is that it is that like these are limited casts where you have people except for Yardley Smith doing multiple voices in shows, like, and it does give people a chance to really flex the range they have now. Like I think, you know, there are comedy characters. There are comedy characters and there are comedy characters. Like I think the idea of bringing in Weldon Pierce to play Cleveland is a really good move because Cleveland is a pretty significant character.
Yeah.
And he has like there's enough depth with Cleveland that it's worth contributing a black actor to play him.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that they should bring in a black actor to play angry weatherman Artie Williams? Not so much, even though he actually is already played by a black person. But you know, if he wasn't, I'd be less inclined to promote it because, like, you know, Phil Lamar has been doing the voice for Ollie Williams for ages, and like again, Phil Lamar is an excellent voice actor regardless of race, and he's been able to play excellent characters outside of his race. Like he was Vamp in Metal Gear Solid 2. Should they if they do a remake of that game, should they get a white person to play Vamp?
You see, that's the thing. It's a never-ending pit of,
you know,
like, look, the road to hell.
Did they have to get a white boy to play in Bart Simpson?
Yeah, well, that's it. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and this is something that can get out of hand very quickly. And I'm just sitting back in my libertarian chair, holding Ayn Rand, going, "Don't! This is going to go bad." But okay, go do it. You know.
I'm actually going.
So
I'm going to actually stand in the opposition here and say that I'm actually all for this.
Okay. Well, question, Kev, before you go, where does it end?
With Kev disagreeing with you.
No,
I get what you're saying. I know in an ideal world, when racism ends, but obviously, that is.
Do you think it's okay for shows to end because their budget's too small?
Like, exactly, that's it. Like, and what about an Irish person? Like, one of the great things about comedy is it's hilarious when they come out with the Irish character. Does that mean that can't happen anymore?
But no, I think what I'm getting, what's kind of the root of the problem though is the fact that people of color, and this is true kind of across every industry, not just voice acting, but that people of color as a profession is less occupied by various people of color, and I think that it's something that just kind of needs to more people of color just need to kind of involved in voice acting. And again,
sure, but that
you
goes
say
without saying.
Where does it end? But like, I think that there is always kind of an open door to have it, and if that means black people are going to have play black people for a while, I think that's if more people. I think with the Simpsons one, it's for me if the bottom line of this means that more people of color are getting prominent voice acting jobs, I'm only seeing that as a really kind of a net positive.
So this is coming from the chat. It's an interesting topic. For example, sometimes it feels like Cree Summer has voiced every black female character since the 90s. Does that mean that she should never voice any white character?
So, I think that's kind of there's a funny thing about black people voicing white people, because it's not the marginalized group representing the unmarginalized group, or sorry, it is the marginalized group representing.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting back into Lindsay Ellis here. Like, there's no equal footing as far as what's the term for colonial representation?
I'm not too sure.
Well, look, that goes right back to what we're saying. Ireland was a colony. So
yeah, but Ireland doesn't have the animation output of the States.
True, but
you can't compare the two.
But what I'm saying is the shorthand used, and again, this all comes from shorthand and budget. If you need someone to come out and be a character, like we've seen a Colin for the Simpsons, for example, or even Willie, he's Scottish, not played by a Scotsman. So it's I get.
He'll be played by David Tennant by next year, I betcha.
Well, that would actually be
David
awesome.
Tennant's with Disney now.
Yeah. But here's the thing, it's just I do see the point, and on the one hand, I'm like, cool. My hope would be from trying to be as centrist as I can, centrist fence-sitter as I can.
Entitled centrism.
Well, it is what it is.
Sorry, enlightened centrism. That's
there you go. And it's more like, I hope going forward that is built in, that more people get opportunities, because the more people working is better. But I do think in legacy stuff where it's set up, probably just leave it go.
Yeah.
But
at this point, I'd rather see the Simpsons get cancelled than them recast people.
That's probably what's going to happen. They're going to have to recast anyway, so
that's fine.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen.
Mean, in the case of the Simpsons, that's probably going to be it. I don't see the Simpsons becoming the flag waver for social equality in animation and voice acting.
Well, I mean, that's what I wanted to get onto, which is that, like, in a way, the problems exist. We possibly touched on this last week, so it's a big topic to talk about. But these problems exist because this show was created in the late 80s and early 90s. Yeah. And as happens with time, values change. And, like, I would much rather whatever resources are going into The Simpsons be devoted to something new, animation-wise, that allowed for different forms of cultural expression. This feels like it's a act that comes from a positive place, and certainly I hadn't considered Kev's point. That is incredibly important to see more representation in the voice acting industry. But ultimately, it feels like this is a gesture that would be much more meaningful if it allowed different communities in the animation to express new voices rather than simply plugging them into something that already exists and has kind of already made its cultural impact.
Yeah.
And it won't change at this point,
And that's exactly how I see it. It's the equivalent of Marvel taking a character and gender swapping it, or
Are inventing safe space and,
exactly
and what are the other terrible names they have, like
backpack and I don't know, cyberspace or something.
There was safe space and what was the other? There was one other one that was really bad, but I can't remember it now.
But like the thing about it is because it comes off one as tokenism, and two it goes against whatever they were trying to do.
But the point, sorry to cross you there, Kev,
sure.
but the point on comic books as a comparison is a really good one, because you complain about safe space. But, for example, a character like Kamala Khan, the new Miss Marvel, she is a great character, and it's a great series in its own right.
Because
they didn't just swap.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's just it. They didn't just swap Carol Danvers. It was a new thing with its own form of cultural expression. Like, it wasn't just a sort of plaster over type thing, And
coming here from the chat, that's a great point from Keen. If it was used as a gateway for new creations, that would be a really awesome thing to happen. I think we're all of that opinion, guys, where that's what we would rather.
That's what I'm saying. And don't get me wrong, I can see the kind of the corporate greed angle of this, of just, Fox cashing in, just like, here's the Black Lives Matter movement. Yeah, okay, we're gonna, pay lip service to showing representation while actually like solving none of the root issue.
Yeah.
Well, I think look how many corporations are really pro LGBT this month.
Except in certain parts of the world where it's not actually politically expedient to do so.
Now that as of streaming this, we're on the 1st of July. Notice how not many corporations are promoting.
Oh yeah, wasn't there a brilliant meme where it's like watching the clock tick down to July 1st and all the logos disappear?
I'll link to the group chat later. It's wonderful.
And that's it. Here's the thing, if you're going to do something, do it for the right reasons. Don't do it because it wins points.
Like even do it because you earnestly believe in it. Like I mean, like it's not. I mean, I think. Like at the same time, like I mean, I think it's one of those things now where like if we're gonna see like shows that are gonna be very much like focused on the idea of representing Black people, great. I want to see that, because the last time I got a show like that, it was the Boondocks and it ruled. So like,
but also characters like Miles Morales. Like I'm not a huge fan of Miles Morales because he's not my favorite Spider-Man, but he is everything that is cool about this kind of unique take on things. Where it opens up a whole new realm of storytelling, and if you can involve people from those backgrounds, that's even better. But don't just stop at tokenism. Actually go and make something out of it.
Like I will use any excuse to just like prop up the Netflix She-Ra series, that this was a queer show created by queer creators, and it's incredible. I love that show.
But what I would say is, again, it shouldn't just be because they are X, Y, and Z. It's because it's awesome. But it just so happens to be, and I think it's more legit. For example, The Matrix is one of my favorite movies of all time, made by 2 trans women. A lot of stuff in The Matrix makes a hell of a lot more sense when you realize that. But they did it, and it was never a case of, because it was The Matrix is amazing. But also, and it's a whole new subtext and extra learning from it. So, look, that's where I would come from.
But
sorry, you go first, Bryn. Sorry.
It's like with it's like when one thing I'm starting to pay attention to more is like I started watching comedians who have autism and Asperger's, and watching the kind of shows that they've written and created, and comparing them to shows where their main character seems to have those same afflictions. Like there was that show, The Good Doctor, where the main character has autism, and it's like, and like that comes across to me as like such a corporate representation of what autism is. Same thing with Sheldon in The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, very
versus what people with those kind of conditions actually produce.
Bryn, I'm actually on the Asperger's syndrome, so I know completely where you're coming from. Like, it's either when it comes to representation in media, there are some good ones, like Christopher Eccleston's show. I think it was The A Word. But like by and large, when it comes to that, it's either a Sherlock superpower or it's like a Phantom of the Opera curse, and there's no middle.
And
yeah,
that's,
well, no,
and
the
that's
middle
because
ground,
and that's the
middle
shorthand.
ground,
That's the shorthand that we're talking
the
about.
middle ground
on.
is Sheldon,
Yeah.
and
Oh
none of them
God, is that the middle ground?
That's the middle ground in
that's the middle
popular
ground.
culture. Yeah,
and that's like yeah, it's really bad representation. Like, and this is what a lot of people kind of point towards. But like, it's it's one of those things where, like, the more diversity that you open yourself up to, like in terms of just genetic in terms of genetic diversity, in terms of genetic diversity, intellectual diversity across the board, the more creative outlets become available. And this it's just one of those things where, like, again, like I want to see more shows where, like I think it's more interesting to see like someone like Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I think is probably one of the best comedic writers going today, and she just happens to have written one of the best female-orientated comedy shows in the last century.
Yeah, and Killing Eve, I believe, is hers as well. Like,
yeah.
Well, this is it, and this is all the good that can be done. It's just we got to be careful that tokenism doesn't take over. And then
yeah, but tokenism
that's
exists to plant other cultures into a predominantly white existing media. Tokenism doesn't exist in something that comes from that culture in the first place. Do you know what I mean?
That's not necessarily true.
Do you not think so?
Not necessarily. We are running out of time. That's the thing. So, guys, we can pick. We can either go into overtime or we can wrap up. What would you guys would rather do?
Let's go for overtime.
Yeah, I think we're all going to walk away unhappy if we do that now.
All right. So what we're going to do is, guys, we're going to take a quick break. For anyone listening on the stream, we'll be right back. If you're listening on Phoenix 92.5 FM, go over to NerdToKnowMedia right now. Buy my book.
Come back next week for Lisa's rant.
Exactly. We'll be back next time on Phoenix 92.5 FM. Guys, we'll be back after this very, very, very short break because we have a lot more to talk about. So we'll see you after short break.
Goo.
Excellent.
And we're back. Really short break. Short break.
Did you make tea? Did you boil the kettle?
Yeah. Did you mess us?
So before we pick this up again, guys, Munster has popped in here. Absolutely, all the autistic Asperger characteristics are portrayed in the exact same way, which furthers the annoying idea that all people from A think like this.
Yep.
And she also says that even Twitch goes all out for Pride Month, which is true.
Sorry. On that point, then, can I just say that, like, this is probably the closest point I will have to sort of referencing how cultures are represented in media, because when I tell people about this, they're surprised because I don't have the symptoms that they see in television. And I think that is part of the bigger conversation about how all cultures are represented in media.
But the reason why is because humans work at a fundamental level where they need things to latch onto. It's why stereotypes exist, right? This is just the way it is. We take shorthand so we can kind of process it, and that laziness that's in humans, which it is, it's a genetic laziness kind of thing that we've had where we do it, but that's kind of been absorbed into media where it's like, oh, this and this represents that, this and we've seen that go in a very negative way in a lot of ways with certain things. When you go back and watch 10-20 years ago, that will be in its most nasty effect, and it's still kind of there. So
I think this is like...
before you jump in, Brent, it's the same thing with nerds. Like you say, oh, what are nerds like? Whatever, they're going to point to The Big Bang Theory because it has
or the three nerds in The Simpsons that Homer goes to college with, a comic book guy, that kind of thing.
There is that kind of language that's there because of the way humans interact on a social level. That it's just kind of there, and it's one thing that is very, very unfortunate that we still haven't been able to get over past that. Bryn, go back in. I'm sorry for
but it's the one of the things that I was just thinking of there is that, like, one of the problems with humor as it is like in its outset is that it is, because of what it actually is, it is fundamentally exclusive. Because the reason why I might find something funny is entirely different to why any of you here would find something funny, or the people listening would find this funny. And it's one of the reasons why like shorthand is used out of laziness, but also because you're just trying to share like most of the time with comedy, you're not going into the deep waters of it to explain why something's funny. You're using shorthand to kind of explain it, unless you're really, really good at telling jokes.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, most people aren't. Yeah. And like when it comes to, I think it's one of those things where, you know, with like I always looked at a comedian like Chris Rock as being the example of someone who I'd say he's not where I would say that like, well, I would totally accept people saying he's a brilliant comedian and they love his work. I would say that I didn't really enjoy his work because I would just sit there for an hour and a half going, "That's very true, Chris." And that would be as much of a reaction as I would get out of him.
But what I'd say to that is with Dave Chappelle, for example, he takes that and turns it on its head and really goes for it. And that's the difference. It's more pointing at something and going, "Oh, look, isn't that funny? It's not comedy. That's mean." And it's very one note. It's very of its time, and it's something that would be deemed, and I use this term through my teeth, problematic.
Yeah. But the thing about it, really what.
But by pushing it a little bit, you can have great satire, and that's the thing we lose with this. Satire is a very important. For example, Mel Brooks. Everything Mel Brooks has ever done is problematic.
Yeah. Like
everything,
like because obviously
ever done, but it's also
Simpsons
amazing.
Thing is not in a bubble. Like there's been a bunch of stuff being pulled from streaming services.
It's horrible.
The one that really soured me was when I heard about the Faulty Towers episode getting pulled.
Come on. Like, you watch it and
that is missing. Like if you're pulling that because he's imitating Hitler, you are losing every ounce of context that is a part of.
They also pulled it. They pulled it because for another reason as well.
The N-word and
it is there.
Now, in the context of the scene, the character is clearly in the wrong, but I can understand. Although I don't see why they just cut that bit. That bit lifts out very easily.
What I would say is, don't cut anything, because this isn't Fahrenheit.
That's fair, yeah,
and it is an equilibrium.
Because that's erasure, and that's a bad.
But just put a warning up if that's the big thing. Like the girls were saying last week or the week before, a warning would do the same thing. Yeah. Everybody, here's the thing. But the thing about it is, right? I remember growing up that Nazis were hilarious. The reason why is because they were so ridiculous, and we'd make fun of them all the time because they were ridiculous. But the joke came from, these are bad. Look how terrible they were. And that ties into Wolfenstein, for example, where it's very satisfying to mow down loads of Nazis because they're bad. And everybody knows that. So I'm like, I just don't see the point. Like, someone pops in there and says, "I'll appreciate the editors being difficult sometimes to establish where satire ends and actual hurtful content begins." And I agree. I agree with that 100%. I think that line is one to keep in mind, but erasing history for the sake of it
by just wiping the slate clean and pretending it didn't happen, you don't learn anything from that.
No.
Yeah,
you learn by mistakes being made in the past.
And then that becomes comedy.
But there's that Looney Tunes disclaimer that Warner Brothers put on pretty much everything. Where it just said like these were made in a different time and with different value system, and just take it as a relic from that period.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, it's like it's difficult because I do see both sides, but I can't stand, as someone with a history degree, I can't stand by and watch history being destroyed.
Yeah,
it's just wrong. It feels morally wrong.
I mean, it's tough though, because like, I mean, you look at what was pulled from Netflix and like the likes of Little Britain. Like, I mean, that
was always a terrible show. Though.
That was always very mean spirited. I can kind of get that, but the League of Gentlemen, there's a little bit more going on there. Like, it's not as simple as this is offensive, take it away. Like, you know,
look who it is. The League of sorry, Ben, I will let you go in. But the League of
Gentlemen,
the League of Gentlemen has two of my favorite creators in it, and I love everything they do. They're actually intelligent. They have something to say. Little Britain was always a bad show, and at the time, I remember thinking it was a bad show. So I'm shocked people let it go in the first place. Go in. Sorry.
So, like, what I would say though is, like, even like I'm with everyone here as well. In Little Britain being a bad sketch show and being a bad comedy show in general, the what I would say though is, like, even though I think it's bad and I think it's mean spirited, I would never say that it should be gotten rid of.
Yes.
Because at the very least, this is something that comedy writers can watch and learn from and go, this is not what you do.
Never do this again. Look how bad this is. Exactly.
Only do this if you want to become a best-selling children's author.
Which is unbelievable when you think about it. Multiple popped in there. That Looney Tunes disclaimer is fantastic. It also adds taking the scenes out of acting. It also adds taking these scenes out of acting as if they didn't happen, which is a very good point.
Yep. Absolutely.
Like also there's a really good comment here as well. I will not forgive the writers of what's the show, Big Bang Theory, for playing World of Warcraft on a Mac with their mouse, which is true. A lot of wrongs were done in that show. A lot of wrongs were done in that show.
Yeah.
And some very small.
I don't want to turn this shame thing into like bigger than it already is, but like the Big Bang Theory has its own kind of skeletons in the closet. I think Pop Culture Detective does a really good breakdown of how the not just like the kind of nerds, how they represent masculinity and actually reinforce toxic masculinity, but he also I wish I knew the character's name, but the one non-white character and how he's represented in terms of like, Raj, that is much more cutting than anything Apu did over the years. Like,
and I will say, but that's actually a very good point, and I agree with you 100%. But what I will say about Apu is, right, he's a genius computer scientist who has a family, has kids, lived the American dream,
has a business.
He's one of the most positive depictions
of any human.
Yeah. Well, compared to anyone that is Irish in The Simpsons, even The Simpsons themselves, anyone who's Scottish in The Simpsons, anyone who was American for the most part in The Simpsons, and it's like, come on, context matters. Context matters.
Because if you actually watch the episodes, like, Homer is stupid in contrast to Apu. Like, do you remember when Apu had to be American for, like, one scene? Yeah. Like, I mean, that was brilliant. Like
as well as that, do you remember, like, if you compare him to just about every other character in the show, like you compare him to Wiggum, and he's like, he comes across as much more proficient and competent at his job. You compare him to Mayor Quimby, and he's not corrupt in what he does in his job. Like, he might price gouge, but he's also not having 17 different affairs.
Remember, he's also told to price gouge.
Yes, he is.
There's also just like a little scene where, like, I think Homer points at like a statue of Ganesha, and I was like, "What the hell is this elephant thing?" He's like, "That is my god. I wish ask that you kindly stop poking him."
Yes, do not offer my god a peanut.
Yeah, like he. I mean, comparing him to like Mr. Burns, like, it's just. I mean, there's just so many other characters to compare him to, and you can say, well, yeah, Apu comes out as like being one of the most noble characters in the show. Yeah. Like, I suppose that when Lisa first becomes vegetarian and is really struggling with the idea that like no one else will really listen to her, he sits her down and actually goes like, well, look, you actually have to accept people for what they want to do.
Yeah.
And he says it in a very thoughtful way. Yeah.
I think that's an important thing to remember. Like, the depictions of things are important, and I'm not saying they're not, but there's a difference between what something happens in Little Britain, where there was no reason for them to literally go out to offend and hurt people as much as they can, right? For no reason. Like, there's no good in Little Britain. There's no one feels good after watching it. You don't learn anything. It's very mean-spirited compared to The Simpsons, where we've run through a couple of major arcs there, and you learned a lot from it. You knew what he was. You knew what he felt like. You knew his family, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and actually, Bryn brings up a very good point, which was the lesson in that vegetarian episode, was that while, yes, it's brilliant that Lisa is a vegetarian, she can't expect everyone in the world to suddenly jump to her newly found moral standard. And I feel like, obviously, I can't control how anyone feels and all that kind of stuff. It's a complex issue. But I feel like, broadly, that is something that is palatable to this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. But it's also one of the first that I can think of. It's probably one of the first depictions of any kind, let alone positive depiction of someone being vegan.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Him
and Danny O'Brien.
Yeah. Well, like, we won't talk about the world's toughest vegan today.
I have so many questions.
Comment here from the chat.
Don't ask any of them.
No.
Apu was one of my favorite characters as a kid because I thought he was a very smart and nice man. I also really liked his mustache. I never laughed at him or thought it was Indian culture was a joke, and I never thought that too. Like it wasn't of all the things they could have done, like what they've done with other cultures, they never really did that. You know, it was just he's a character, he's a man.
Yeah, I mean now because like I want to actually ask this. Like, I watched the episode where he did his arranged marriage a few days ago.
Right.
And like, even though you could go, okay, very broad cultural stereotyping, like still the Indian characters within it, like the mother and Manjula and the people that were fully well-rounded people who kind of both embraced it and recognized that it was antiquated. I felt like for that plot, it didn't feel like their non-Americanness was the joke, if you get me.
It was using the context of the scene to kind of talk to discuss the topic of it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Manjula saying like, "Well, you can always get divorced," kind of shows their entire attitude about having the arranged marriage. You know?
Yeah.
Exactly. And look, and I think that's the best way to do stuff like that. And the Simpsons did it 20 years ago, and I think you know, throwing the baby out with the bathwater over something that is of its time as well, is not a good way to go. Things. This is how stuff gets destroyed. This is how the Library of Alexandria is burned down. This is why we have statues in museums that don't exist anymore because people smash stuff in a fit of.
It's also
so there's things we don't want to know. Important things.
Literally. So it's like, you know what, guys, have a think, sit down, pick up Atlas Shrugged, read a chapter or two, and then think about it again, and you'll be fine.
And go on Brave.
Exactly. But guys, this has been a really good discussion, I have to say, very lively. The first time we've gone into overdrive on this show as well, which is cool. I think that the arranged marriage episode was satirizing how stupid Americans can be towards the cultures, which is true. Like when Bart asked the Pooh's mother if her bindi changed color.
The DOS. Yeah.
And I said, "Well, she sighs, and you tell me." And look, that's a very cool little cool comment that if we're looking at it at a 2020 lens, could be problematic. And that's where it's like, you know what, context matters. Chill out, relax, take a break, and look at it for what it's trying to do, rather than that one specific scene, that one specific moment at the time. And again, here's the thing. This stuff is funny, quote unquote, because we know how ridiculous it is. That's the point.
Yes.
Like, there is this inbuilt thing that if you're making fun, and the Simpsons did it as well all the time, they would, wheel out the evil German, and you know what it's supposed to be, and it's like, look how ridiculous he is.
But as well as that, they played on those kind of stereotypes as well, where like, especially with Germans, where they'd say like, we Germans aren't all smiles and handshakes, smiles and sunshine, or like,
and we know that's funny. Because of what happened, right? But if you remove that,
decided to be the one to talk to you because I give off the least threatening demeanor.
Exactly. And as the thing, like me and my friends, we grew up like you guys. We grew up on a diet of The Simpsons, so that sense of, well, we know that these things are funny because they're ridiculous, because they have the shorthand. It was always kind of there, and I think if you take that away, for example, like if they removed all references to that. It would fall apart. It would be like that episode of Simpsons on Channel 4 when you're watching it and they're talking about the hookers in your man's barn. And it's like, where's the hookers out back? And that's completely gone. So it makes no sense when you're watching it. So I would just, I would always be of the straight middle of the line kind of thing where I'm like, okay, I agree, but let's talk about it. And I'm glad we talked about it. I'm glad we had diverse opinions here, guys. This was a really good debate. Thanks once more for comments. Really insightful to actually have some.
Yeah, actually, the comments in the chat really brought this alive. Thank you so much to everyone who's still listening. Like,
for sure.
Thank you for enduring with us.
We hope you go away equally confused.
Well, again, we're going to debut a new segment, which we're going to spring on you, Kane, because we haven't told any. We didn't tell you about it. It's called "What Didn't We Get To This Week on the Show Plan?"
I feel like we've been doing that segment informally for as long as I've been here.
Exactly, but now it's formalized. So things we didn't get to this week. We didn't finish our Simpsons review. We didn't talk about Lisa's wish rant, but we did kind of.
We did.
And then we also went into overtime. So we did pretty well, guys. We got to two or three of the things which we had. So that's all right. That's good.
Which is more than usual.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't mention Star Wars.
Yeah.
I knew something was different.
We stayed away from the dangerous topics, which are Star Wars and total non-stop action wrestling.
Exactly.
So, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's see. We had enough to talk about with race relations in modern media to leave away the big red button labeled Star Wars.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So let me get this right. This is like that episode of Malcolm in the Middle where the parents stop having sex and they suddenly get like 20 things done a day they normally wouldn't.
literally.
Yeah, Dara, stop having sex with Star Wars.
Well, I don't know, man. It's a dead franchise, so there's not really much there. So you have to wait. She's not attractive anymore. You know, she's dead basically. So there's not much to do, right?
Oh, we're not ending on that bittersweet note, are we?
No, we're not.
I feel like even in the most controversial episode we've ever had, that's still the worst note to end on.
Yeah, well, I would say it's controversial, but also not. Anyone who who has a comment on this, do let us know. Because look, I want to talk about it. We come from 4 different points of view, obviously on this panel. So, I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you thought, what you didn't think, if you think we were wrong, who you agree with, whatever. But the point is, on this show, we do not have a set opinion. We're just here to talk about stuff from different standpoints, and that's the main thing. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what we've always tried to do, and a lot of
that's a very good center point to take there, Dara. Yeah.
Well, that's my gimmick. That's what I do.
Yeah.
As I hug my portrait of Ayn Rand. But yeah, guys. So before we get out of here, plug time. So buy my album.
On Brave.
Go on Brave and listen to Nerd to Know Media and all the stuff that we do. But guys, what else do you want to plug? Keen, what would you like to plug, sir?
Okay, the 10th episode of the Game Corner is coming out this Friday. It's going to have the now famous Lisa on it, talking about the newest Pokemon things, and it will also have my wonderful fiance Stevie on it, talking about the board games we've been playing. It'll be like a sort of mid-series finale type thing, so should be fun. And also, just on a personal note, if you're a Doctor Who fan, go to bigfinish.com for the radio plays. They are doing a killer range of awesome Doctor Who stuff at the moment and they've even got John Sim back. So
oh wow,
great times to be a Doctor Who fan. There's loads of good stuff up there at the moment.
Very cool. And Kev, you just did an anime.
Yeah, no, the second episode of Anime Crash Course has been recently recorded. Should be released on should be next Monday. It'll be released on the 6th.
I'm really looking forward to this. I was talking to Keith there about it the other day, and he has nothing.
Oh man, it went off
it.
the rails fast. We managed to double the episode length compared to One Punch Man.
Oh my god!
And we got into some deep dive topics.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how many deep kind of modern themes you could get into with dragon lesbian maids, but here we are.
Yeah, no, we took a horny dragon anime. We took a horny dragon anime and talked about it for an hour.
It'll complement this episode well, certainly. I'll just drop that in.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's a really enjoyable episode to watch, and an episode to record, and I think it'll be really, really cool to listen to. So that should be up on Monday the 6th.
I was there. It was great fun, Kev. Yes, thanks for having me on.
Very good.
Kian was also there. Kian and Keith, who was on our Anime Lockdown panel a couple months ago.
Do you know what the next anime is, Kev?
We do actually. We finished. We do a vote after we record the sessions, and I'll happily announce that the next episode will be on The Promised Neverland.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
A horror anime from about 2 years ago. I've watched it already. I think it's really, really interesting.
So that's going to be next month.
That'll be the start of the start of August.
Okay, very cool. And Bryn, anything you like to plug, sir?
No, not really. So just look for me on Twitter using Brave.
Actually, there is something you have to plug. Today, your interview with one of your
Shannon.
Game developer interviews went up with the developer of a wrestling card game. That went up.
So the interview with Shannon went up. Awesome. Didn't know that was up today. Awesome. Yeah. His game is Mark Out. Is going to be Mark Out. It's called Mark Out. It's going to be like a turn-based card game. It looks really awesome. You can actually follow him on Twitch. His channel is still called Spot Caller, spelled with a Z, and you can check him. You can check out his development process. He's He streams about every day, starting around 6 p.m. our time here, and goes until about 6 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes he's a very hardworking dude.
I really enjoyed that interview. The pace and tone of it was really good. If you haven't checked out Bryn's interviews with game developers, and they all seem to be kind of wrestling game developers
so far,
as well,
that should be changing soon.
Oh, cool. But yeah, no, it's a really good series. A lot of really good content up on the YouTube. It's slowing down a little bit because obviously lockdown is not really a thing anymore. But we are endeavoring to keep content at least most days of the week. And Bryn's one is really good. I'm very excited to check out Kev's show, I must say. Keen, your show is always great. Stevie needs to come on this podcast, and we need to have our Star Wars panel.
Oh God! Like, set aside a few hours for that episode.
I can't wait.
If it eventually happens,
it needs to happen. You know, even if it's a panel in real life.
You know, Prim's talking a bit now as well. Like, it's just going to be a big, long conversation.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to it. It's one thing that needs to happen eventually. But
yeah,
guys, that's it. Thanks for joining with us. Our longest episode to date. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, smash that like button, comment, all that fun stuff. And of course, we're on Spotify and everything else. Email us nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com, and we'll be back same time next week. Buy my book. See you next week.
On Brave.
Bye, guys.
On Brave.
Bye.
Bye.